Hi, I'm Mark Mancini with VRBO Outstanding and Vacation Home Mastery. But this week's episode is on the 10 things you need to know and need to do before you leave the lot with your brand new Cybertruck, so stay tuned. And welcome back. Okay, these are 10 things I wish I was told before I left the lot, because there was a couple things that really could have saved my butt. So I'm going to step in here. We're going to do a lot of this episode looking at the screen, and you're not going to do a lot of looking at me. So first thing I want to tell you about is right here in the bottom left is your control. You press that, and this says everything on your screen that you need to know. Now the first thing I want to tell you about is something called Sentry. Now Sentry is your recording of all the aspects of all the cameras, everything that happens around your car when you park and when you're driving. So say you're driving, it's going to record the whole time. But then if you hit your horn, it's going to save that. And when you're driving and it records it, it just loops over. It doesn't store it. But it only stores if you hit your horn or if your airbags are deployed. It'll go back about 20, 30 seconds before for insurance purposes. Now, you'll see here, Sentry has a red light on and it has recording. That is not enabled by default, okay? You first have to format the USB drive that they give. They give you in your glove box in here in the USB port is a storage. I think it's 128 gigs of storage. And that's actually, I believe it's under safety. And you're gonna want to turn your Sentry mode on. And there's an option here to format your drive, and you need to format it first and turn it on. And you'll see the camera-based detection is on, and we've got view live camera via the mobile app. You're going to want to keep that on. This disable Sentry sounds, you want to leave that off. You don't want to disable that, okay? Now there's a couple things you need to know about that. When you're parked at your home, it'll always be recording unless you tell it not to. Now if you're parking in your garage all the time, you don't have to turn your Sentry on. It'll save battery and it'll save recording. But if you park outside like I do, and many of you do because it won't fit in your garage, then you want to leave it on, okay? So a couple different options here with the Sentry mode, but basically it's going to be designed around where you park your car and what you want to do. But for the most part, you're going to want to enable those two and disable the middle one, okay? The dash cam is always going to be set to normal. That's your best bet. Rear view camera is auto. So what that is it's going to put your rear view camera right here on your screen. And the reason why it does that is because when your tonneau cover is down, you cannot see out of the back. In fact, if we go ahead and look back in the cab, you'll see how pitch black it is. There's nothing to see back there. And because there's nothing to see back there, your rear view mirror is useless. So one of the first things I did was I removed my rear view mirror. And there are some YouTube videos on how to do that, and I plugged it up with a nice little cover to make it look a little bit better. But really the only thing your rear view mirror is for is if your tonneau cover is up or if you want to look at your face and adjust your hair. So that's really about it. But you want to make sure you enable that. Now that's number one thing to do. The second thing to do is you're going to want to enable your autopilot. Now there's no full self-driving on this yet. You have to use your autopilot on the highway, which it'll create space between the cars in front of you, but it will not steer for you at all. So that's going to be later. They said late July. But on autopilot, which is right here, you're going to want to at least enable that and set it so that when it's ready, it'll come out and it'll turn on. So there's a couple different options here. Pretty much just take all the defaults. The only thing you want to change is your forward collision warning. Depending, what kind of driver you are, I like it at medium. If you do it on early and a car stops in front of you, even if it's like 50 feet, it's going to give you an alert. It's going to be annoying. If you do it late, it might be too late to react. So I like the medium setting on this. Also, lane departure avoidance, always do the warning. This way, if you change your lane, it'll give you an alert. So there's something else about that we'll talk about when you put your directionals on in just a second. Following car distance, this is another thing with autopilot. I like keeping it to 3. Anything less is a little too tight. Anything more, and you're gonna have the whole world cutting in front of you, because you're creating too much of a space. So those are two things. Number one and number two, you want to enable. You want to, and one thing I can't show you is with the Sentry and with the autopilot, you have to accept and agree to terms. So you're going to want to make sure you do both of those before you leave. Now the reason why I say that is because maybe 5-6 hours after I picked this up and I got back home to North Myrtle Beach, we had a tourist thinking it was okay when he missed a turn to make a right turn from the middle lane, and he did it right in front of me. And I jammed on the brakes and turned and narrowly missed my first accident, probably 200 miles or less since owning the vehicle. My Sentry did not record that, and that really, really upset me. So you definitely want to make sure you have that set up before you leave the dealership in case that happens to you, God forbid. Okay. The other thing you're going to want to know before you leave your dealership is under controls and dynamics. So under controls, you'll see ride height. Now this is set to low. You can change your height, but you don't really want to do that yet. You want to go to the next one, which is controls. I wish I knew this when I picked it up, because when I first got the vehicle, okay, I believe it was set to either standard or comfort. And when I went onto the highway to see just how much of a beast this thing was, I wasn't totally impressed. Well, that's because you have to switch it to beast mode. And when you do that, it lowers it, it changes the handling, it changes the gear ratio and how the electric motor works. And this will go 0 to 60 in 2.6, and you're going to want to put that on just so you can kind of see how well it goes. That's the third thing. The fourth thing you're going to want to know before you leave is how to change gears, okay? Now right now I'm charging, so I'm going to unplug my charger, come right back, and show you what to do. Okay, so I unplugged the electric because it will not let you put it in drive with your charger plugged in. So first, obviously, you put your foot on the brake, and this is how you change gears. You go up for drive, down for reverse. When you put it in reverse, you'll have your rear view and side view mirrors. Put it in drive. You just turn this right off here, and there's your rear view mirror I talked about earlier. So that is how you change gears. There's no sticks here on here, so that's just so you're not freaking out, okay? The other thing I want to show you, since we're here already, is with the cooling. Now you'll see this is on, was it 5 right here, okay? Now, if I hit auto, look what happens. You can probably hear that. Hear how loud it goes? Auto will crank it up to a whole new level. So when you get your Cybertruck and you start messing with this, and you put it having like on 4 or 5, and you're like, man, it's 95 degrees out. Why isn't this cooling? Well, you can go straight up to 9 or 10, or you can go to auto, and auto just jacks it right up. Okay, so if you're driving, you don't want your finger all around the screen, just go straight to auto, and it'll jack it up for you. It's a real quick and easy way to do that. Now, the other thing I wanted to show you before you left your dealership is how to operate. Over here on your yoke, you'll have your directionals. The top one is going to the right, the bottom one is going to your left. Now, when you click on your directional to go to the right, okay, it's going to change your camera from your rear view to the side view. Now, if a car is here in your path, it's going to have a red line here across the side here, okay? That red line across the side means don't pass. So one of the things you need to get accustomed to when you put your directional on is to look at your screen. Don't look at your side view mirrors. Trust in your cameras. This will let you know if there's a vehicle over there. It'll have the red line. If there's no red line like it is now, you can make a right turn. If you want to make a left turn, if there'll be a red line here, if there's a vehicle. If there's no vehicle, just go ahead and make the turn. No need to look in your side view mirrors, okay? This is what your full self-driving uses. Now, the other thing too is if you need to turn off your directional, okay? Normally with a stick, if you have it on the left directional, you'll move it to the right or to the middle to turn it off. To turn it off, if it's a left directional on, hit the left directional again, it shuts it off. When you're changing lanes on the highway, it'll automatically turn off for you once you're in that lane. So it's automatic turn off. And if you're making a turn, obviously it turns it off. So that's some pretty decent technology. It takes a little while to get used to. It took me a couple hours to get used to it, but that's how you use your directionals. And to put it in park, you can just drop it right there in the middle, and that's it. The next thing you're going to want to change is when you get your vehicle, your charge limit is going to be in the upper left, and it's going to be a percentage, okay? I personally don't like percentages. My wife does. It's whatever floats your boat. I like knowing how many miles I can go with it, especially if this is a new vehicle for you, because the first week I owned my last Tundra, I ran out of gas. I didn't realize just how much of a gas hog it was, and I ran out of gas right in front of my gym when I was going to the gym. So I like knowing the range on that. The other thing you're going to want to do and set, and we're going to have this bullet list at the end, so don't you worry. You're going to want to go to your navigation. Okay. What you're going to want to do with your navigation, if you click on navigate, you're going to want to set your home address. And the reason you're going to want to do that is we're going to set your home address is because when you leave the dealership, you need to know if you have enough charge to make it there. You may have to stop at a supercharger. So always put your destination in there, so it'll let you know where you have to stop to charge and for how long. The great thing about Tesla is if I want to go to the Keys, okay, I'll put in the address. It not only maps it out for me, but it shows me where I have to stop and for how long I want to stop for. It may have me stop for 15 minutes, it may have me stop for 30, it may have me stop for 5. But it shows me the best way to get there so I don't run out of a charge. So again, always change it to your miles and navigate to your home. Always set that in there as well. Okay. Next thing I want to remind you about is charging. Next thing I want to talk about is charging. So this gives you your energy consumption here. But if you go to your controls and you go to your charging, okay, this is 80%, which is 240 miles, okay? What you're gonna wanna do is set this to 80%. Now you can go all the way to 100 if you're making a long trip and just slide it over to 100, but 80% is what you wanna keep your daily drive on. Now you are gonna have what's called vampire drain, okay? And what vampire drain is usage of your battery when you're not using the vehicle. So even though I'm at 80% and I can go 240 miles, tomorrow morning when I get back into this truck to go to the gym at 5:30 in the morning, it'll probably be down to maybe 220. The Sentry is going to be on, detecting any movements and recording them, but also the cooling. One of the things you're going to want to adjust on here, and again, this is one of the things you're going to want to do before you leave your dealership, is make sure that when you leave the vehicle and you let it sit out in the sun, like I'm in South Carolina and it's July right now, I don't want this thing 100 degrees and have me come in here and I'm just in an oven. So you can have it set where 85 degrees is the highest it gets, and then it'll start cooling off. So you're going to want to set that, and this way, you know, when you do that though, throughout the day the air conditioning is going to turn on and it's going to cause vampire drain, but when you go in the car, at least it won't be roasting you like an oven. So you're going to want to make sure that you do that. Plus, never forget that, you know, the Tesla has the dog mode, so if you have your dogs with you, it'll put on the screen, my owner will be back soon. My car temperature is whatever degrees you have it set at, 72, 73. And this way you've got your dog nice and safe. This is just your interface of your 17-inch display. You can move it around, you can change the color of your vehicle. It's very intense user interface. It takes a lot of learning, but the great thing is when you click on your controls at the very bottom, by the way, one of the other things you're going to want to do, and we're going to have this list for you at the end, we're almost there, go to Wi-Fi, and you're going to want to make sure you're connected to your home Wi-Fi. And when an update comes through, always do your updates. It's going to prefer to do it over the Wi-Fi because usually it's a couple 100 meg download, and it's going to take some time to download. So always connect to your Wi-Fi when you get home from the dealership. The other things you're going to want to do when you come home from the dealership, and this is, I gave you a list of 10 things when you're at the dealership, but these are a few things you're going to want to do when you come home from the dealership. So in here, you've got a few different options, and one of the options is going to be your, like for instance, your apps. You've got Zoom, okay? If you have Zoom and you do work meetings and sometimes you're in the car, you're going to want to keep your account logged in, so you're going to sign in with your Zoom login, okay? There's also a couple other features as well. For instance, Spotify. You're going to want to make sure you log into your Spotify account, so you've got that to operate from when you're in here. The other couple things you're going to want in your video section or your theater section, if you've got these accounts, you know, some of you, I'm not on TikTok, Hulu, or Twitch, but Netflix and YouTube I am, so I can go to Netflix and have my account already in there, and my wife and I could go in there and watch movies while we're waiting to do something, okay? So you've got that feature, and again, your YouTube. So if you want to go to YouTube and have your channel already logged in, and if you have a channel like I do, you can just go to your videos and watch all your videos on your Tesla, which is pretty cool. Okay, so let's recap the 10 things you do before you leave your dealership. Number 1, format the USB for Sentry and enable it. Number 2 is accept the privacy settings for Sentry and then go into autopilot, accept those policy settings there and enable that. Number 3, know how to change gears, okay? Make sure they show you how to change it from park to drive to reverse so you can drive out of there. Number 4, know how to change into beast mode and try that puppy out, but be safe with it. It's very aggressive, so be careful. Number 5, change percent on your battery to miles so you know if you can get home or not. And also too, with that, go to your navigation, set your home address and navigate to it to make sure you don't run out of juice when you get home. Next thing, and cooling, know that auto will jack it up all the way to 9, so you don't have to keep your eyes off the road for long. Just hit auto and it cools you off right away. So that's, go ahead, and number 7. Number 8, know your directionals and how to use them. Know that red line, so have faith in that camera. That red line's telling you that there's a car there. So make sure you use your directionals properly and practice that with that before you leave the dealership. Number 9, go ahead and remember that the directionals will turn off, okay, when you change lanes. So if you're on the highway and you change to the left lane, once you're in lane, it's going to turn off, so you learn how to use them, okay? That's bullet points 8 and 9 there. Number 10, set your charge limit to 80. Keep it 80% unless you're going on a long trip, then jack it up to 100, and always use your navigation to get to your spot. Remember, you don't want to hurt your battery. Keep it at 80%. Long trips, bring it to 100. Use your navigation so that you don't run off on the side of the road with a dead battery. When you get home, don't forget, enable your Wi-Fi so your vehicle uses the Wi-Fi. Log into your Netflix, your Hulu, your YouTube, and all those other accounts, your Zoom, everything else. Set your home address in there, okay? Next thing you're going to want to do is make sure that if you're keeping this in your garage, you just disable Sentry from recording, and you don't enable locking at your house. But if you're parking the vehicle outside, make sure you enable locking at your house. Don't have it disabled because you're home. Same thing with Sentry. Leave Sentry on at home because burglaries can happen in front of your house. I hope this really helped you with your new purchase, and you're going to be excited about it. You're going to be driving this thing with a smile on your face, I'm sure, for the next couple of years. You waited 4.5 years for it. You'll be smiling for the next 4.5 years driving it. So enjoy. Remember, hit like and subscribe below. We'll see you again next week.